What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Wuthering Waves set of reactions. This time we have Rage of Machines and With Thunder the Reckoning, both requested by Runisco X in the comments of the last video, and I'm going to listen to what their comments said and trust that there's no good dual uploads of these songs. I'm going to listen to them individually and just talk between them. However, I did go to Finding Purpose's channel. I did find a video with it on there, and I was like, maybe, but I'm also not going to trust it because a few people in their replies were like, it doesn't have everything, and I'm just going to believe them. But I did check, like, the video muted, so I know what they're fighting. I know what Myriad Snare is, and, like, the cutscene that plays in there, so I'm not out of context on this one. So without further ado, let's go! Oh dear. It's a lot of spooky atmosphere to throw at me 0 seconds in. Again, I know what they're fighting, but like... this makes it intense in a way I didn't anticipate. Woo. Man, they really do love messing with the textures on this album, don't they? Lots of mechanical sound design that definitely tracks. Definitely more metallic stuff that's not specific to, like, just chimes and gongs or wherever, you know? It's not just bells, it's actual noises, something that... it's something you would expect Myriad Snare to sound like, honestly. Very accurate. I can imagine those sounds coming out of it. And now we have a Midwest emo intro. Midwest emo outro. Okay, cool. No, it wasn't intro. They got me again. Dang it. Woo! 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 Oh my god, dude! Yo! Yo, like, that's the end? They end so strong with these songs. Like, I know I've heard a couple from this collection at this point, but, like, they're really loving their textures this time, and when they want to drop that shit, they drop it like a brick in the ocean. That is so heavy. There are a lot of sick instrumental choices being done here. I know I mentioned all of the, like, texture stuff, all of this, the metallic sounds that are happening in this track and in general this entire collection, but there's also a bunch of sextuplets happening all over the place. Like, those are everywhere in this, and I feel like because of that they're starting to move a little further, like, towards the Middle Eastern area, like in the Asia that's kind of between the India and everything, further in that direction, because that's something they do a lot in their music there. And while it's definitely in China and in Indonesia and Tibet and everything else, they all kind of have similar musical flares and motifs they like to throw at. I love where they're going with this. I'm not sure how long they're going to spend in this specific style of music and utilizing those things, but there are some instruments I can't even place in this one. Like, I don't know what they are. So we're starting to get to that window of, like, geographical knowledge that I lack, where it's like, I know a lot about China's instruments, some like Korean traditional instruments, a lot of Japan, and then there's just the ocean, and then of course American, European, and quite a few varying European individual countries, even some African instruments I'm well aware of and know. A lot of Spanish too, and a lot of Mexican, South American Spanish I know, but this is a place I have not really formed a study focus on, and I really should, because I love the way they sound, and I feel like there are a lot of things going on in here that like I can tell what the sound is doing, what the instrument is doing in its place, like why it's there, what's the value of having that instrument in that location. And I know what that is, but I can't tell what it is, and that's always what gets me going. I gotta know, you know? So I'm probably gonna have to like look more up after all this stuff, because I'm sure that with Thunder the Reckoning is gonna be very similar in tone to this one, because it's, you know, part of the same general fight and same general chunk. So I'm aware that it's gonna sound something like that, but we really do feel like we're starting to move that direction. I would even argue there's some more like Mongolian sounds that sound kind of like this, but I don't know if we're there. Maybe, but a lot of it, given especially the metallic sounds, there's a lot of instruments I know out of the like Central Asian and Middle Eastern area that have a lot of that, and I can't place exactly what those are. I do feel bad when I like talk about a song, or I try to find the source of something, an instrument or a sound, and I can't really place it myself because I don't know. It's always a bummer when I hear something and then I'll like attribute it to something I do know, like a Chinese traditional instrument, and then a bunch of people are like, that's Korean, you're stupid, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just a man, you know? Like I know that there's stuff I obviously am not aware of, but I do tend to draw those lines because of that lacking knowledge, and I probably should stop that. So with this, I'm interested, and now I have to learn more about that part of the world, their musical identity, and I even do know some things out of like the Mongolian chunk of the musical space, because it's just close enough to China that I've kind of fallen into that rabbit hole a few times. But there's, it just hits, especially the use of sextuplets. I can't get over that. There's even some septuplets in here where it's just 7, but I think a lot of those end on the 6, and then the new bar is the 1, so it doesn't really count. That's just nerd stuff. Love this. Again, mostly texture though, not so much on the melody here that I can really talk about music theory wise. It's a simple one, but I think that's the value of a lot of these sorts of sounds. They have a lot of body to them in their tones of how they hit, less of where the melody's going and what that's telling. It's a story. This is mostly just the energy it's going after. And when it comes to a boss fight that's supposed to be big and intimidating, this works. And then like the way it started with like the vocals just being kind of creepy, you know, like, ooh, I love where they're going. I just wonder where With Thunder is going to take it, you know, like that. I guess that's my next question. So I need to hear that song. So let's go. Sorry, that sounded like Skrillex Bangarang for a second there. Wait a minute. Is that Mongolian? Wait a minute. I think I am kind of in the right area. I don't know if, maybe not Mongolia. Maybe I was closer with like Tibet. They've got a lot of these like chanting vocals in that area. This is what I mean. I need to learn more. Ooh. Okay, I heard the drums. The guitar is new. It's a little sloppy. I like it. It is kind of nice to have music that doesn't just perfectly align itself to a count. See, now I'm confused again because I'm hearing other instruments that I recognize. It really is just like a melting pot, I suppose, isn't it? I am more confident about the Mongolia thing now, though, with certain instrument choices, but music is also not black and white when it comes to that. it gonna drop or is it gonna like leave me on a high note? It might. It left. Okay. It was either going to do one or the other. There was really no in between there. Okay, so yes, more confident about the Mongolia thing now. I am definitely recognizing more traditional instruments in that region, and the vocals definitely helped out on that identifying, but there's still parts in here I'm like, maybe I am just missing something. I do think a lot of me not really being able to pinpoint this, which is a bummer to me, is that I do know some of Mongolia's traditional music and their instruments, but I don't know all of them. You have obvious things like the horsehead guitar and like etc. Like that family is so broad when it comes to stringed instruments that it's like, are you going to be able to pick just one? There's probably a dozen different variants that I haven't heard that some of them might be used in here. So it's like, maybe, but also because of how music works, and I've talked about this quite a few times, there's a lot of sharing, especially among trade routes. So all of like Asia has a bunch of similar instruments depending on what country you're in, because a lot of them traditionally just took an instrument, it got popular in one spot, and then they sold it to a different country entirely, and then it just kind of became its own thing over time there. That's how music do, you know? There's a lot of examples of that, drums being a huge one, where those came from, and the instrument that is as a broad sense is so like heavily debated on exactly where it could have came from, but the general consensus is everywhere, because everybody's been hitting something their whole lives. Like every generation has taken their hands and smacked something and it made a sound, and then a lot of earlier ones took that sound, liked certain ones, and then made it an instrument, made it replicable, and then they brought it somewhere else, or it was taken, stolen, traded, you name it, and everyone kind of got a variant, and then we all named our own variants. That's why a lot of drums like taiko in Japan are not the exact same as like timpani in Europe. It's a similar concept of drum with a completely different attribute of how it's played and when and why. There's a bunch of variants like that, so it's always hard to tell. But man, this is just a fun like blend. I love this sound of like the modern sound coming in here. It's kind of giving me a little bit of like the Who vibes. And if for those of you who are fans of the Who, fucking banger group, by the way, I love that modern traditional blend. They do that. That's their whole thing. But they're obviously a lot more metal than this specifically was. This was more of like a, I would argue a poppier sort of sound, which I kind of enjoy. You know, it's always fun to hear these sorts of applications of let's bring these traditional instruments into the new age, and how people approach that. Are we going to make it synthetic? Are we going to have all like acoustic instruments, but just blending different generations of sound together? You never really know what you're going to get because everyone has a different idea of what sounds good in those contexts. And this hits. This really hits, especially with the vocals being in there. That has the power and the presence, the oh shit moment. So I can definitely see this being like the fight, the main beef of the fight as far as the music goes. And it just lifts and hangs at the end. And I'm like, where's the song going to go? It's not going to go anywhere. I could tell that just by how long the song was, how long I was sitting here listening to it. But the intensity of it raising up there, you can tell that's either going to be a huge moment where it would just completely decrescendo into an outro of some sort, you know, like goes into a cutscene, or it could loop. It really just depends on what you need. So that's how you write music for a game, and they really got it with this one. I love their sound. They know how to do this. There are people who compose game music all the time. They know exactly what they need to do in order to make that tension rise up and then just leave it there. And while I'm sitting here trying to listen to it stand alone, I understand the utility of why it's written that way. But man, it does make me just kind of, you know? So I think that's really about all I got to say on it. Fantastic work. I do love this sound. I hope this isn't the last area we're going to hear a lot of this music style in. I think they have a great time moving around the globe. I think a lot of games do have fun with that, just moving around, taking inspiration from different locations. There's plenty of games that do that and do it phenomenally well. It really just depends on what your game needs and what your goal is with that specific culture being included. Like, is it truly the actual source of where this new location is, or are you using it more as an influence, which I think is closer to what this is? This is more like, let's take that sound and make it its own thing within our universe, and other games will take that entire direct sound and completely borrow everything that it is, maybe hybridize it with something else, and then put it in their game as like a perfect one-to-one variant of what that world is. within their map. So it just depends. I think I am done though. I know I said that already, but I am hyped on caffeine at this point, so I'm gonna just stop yapping. So thank you all so very much for watching. If you have another song you want me to get to from Wuthering Waves, by all means, drop it in the comments below and I will do my best as always to get to those. Or if you don't want to do any of that, maybe just want to follow me and support me for more stuff coming in the future, you know how to do all that. And I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!